A billionaire shattered his grandfather's priceless watch, a $3 million masterpiece that 5 experts declared impossible to repair. Desperate, he stumbled into a teenager's repair shop. The boy looked at the broken pieces and said 3 words, "I can fix this." The millionaire laughed, until the boy did something that changed not just the watch, but the man's entire life. Before I tell you this incredible story of restoration and transformation, tell me, what city are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button because powerful stories of second chances like this one are shared here every week. Now, let me tell you about the day Victor Harrington's world fell apart and how a broken watch saved his life. Victor Harrington stood in the middle of his study, surrounded by shattered glass and twisted metal. His prized possession, a one-of-a-kind pocket watch worth $3 million, lay in pieces on the floor. It had been his grandfather's, passed down through 3 generations, a masterpiece of 18th-century Swiss craftsmanship, and he'd just knocked it off his desk in a moment of carelessness. "No, no, no," Victor muttered, kneeling to gather the pieces. The crystal was shattered. The delicate gears were scattered. The ornate gold casing was dented beyond recognition. 47 years old and worth $500 million, and he felt like crying over a watch. But it wasn't just a watch. It was the last connection to his grandfather, who'd raised him after his parents died. The man who'd taught him everything about business, about life, about integrity. Gone now for 10 years, leaving only this timepiece as a reminder. Victor called the best horologists in New York. One after another, they delivered the same verdict. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrington. It's beyond repair. The mechanisms are too damaged. Even if we could fix it, it would never be the same. It's a total loss." "I'll pay anything," Victor insisted. 100,000, 200,000. Name your price. "Sir, this isn't about money. The watch is destroyed. Sometimes things are just broken beyond fixing." Victor sat alone that evening, the pieces of the watch spread on his desk like a corpse at autopsy. He'd fixed everything in his life through money and determination. Failed businesses, legal troubles, even a heart condition through experimental surgery. But this was different. His phone rang. His daughter, Emma, 22 years old and brilliant, but they'd been estranged for 3 years. He let it go to voicemail as he always did. Some things he'd convinced himself were too broken to fix. The next day, Victor found himself walking through a neighborhood he didn't know, carrying the pieces of his watch in a velvet bag. He wasn't sure why. Maybe hoping to stumble upon some miracle worker. More likely just avoiding his empty mansion. He passed a small shop with a hand-painted sign. "Repairs. All things. Ask inside." The window displayed various items. Electronics, furniture, musical instruments, even a cracked vase that had been beautifully mended with gold seams. Victor pushed the door open. A bell chimed. Inside, the shop was cluttered but organized. Workbenches covered with tools. Shelves lined with projects in various stages of repair. And behind the counter sat a boy, maybe 17 or 18, with dark hair and focused eyes, working on what appeared to be an antique radio. "Can I help you?" the boy asked, looking up. "I doubt it. Everyone else has said it's impossible." Victor placed the velvet bag on the counter. "But I'll pay you just to look at it." The boy opened the bag, carefully examining each piece. He was silent for a long time, his fingers gentle as he turned the broken parts over. Finally, he looked up. "I can fix this." Victor laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. "Kid, I've had 5 of the best watchmakers in New York tell me it's beyond repair. What makes you think you can do what they can't?" "Because they're thinking about what's broken. I'm thinking about what's still whole." The boy spread the pieces on a clean cloth. "Everything broken can be repaired. It just requires patience, care, and the willingness to see possibility instead of destruction." "That's a nice philosophy. But this is a $3 million watch. It's not a philosophical exercise. Everything valuable is. Money doesn't make something precious. Connection does. History does. Love does." The boy looked directly at Victor. This watch matters to you not because of its price tag, but because of who gave it to you. That's what I'll be repairing. Not just the mechanism, but the connection it represents. Victor felt something shift in his chest. This kid, this teenager in a small repair shop, understood something that hadn't occurred to Victor. How long would it take? 3 months. Maybe 4. I can't rush work like this. I need it now. I'll pay you $100,000 if you finish in 2 weeks. The boy shook his head. You can't rush healing. Whether it's a watch or a relationship or a broken heart, transformation takes the time it takes. If you want it fast, you'll get it broken. If you want it right, you'll wait. Who are you? Victor demanded. What kind of repair shop is this? My name is Matteo, and this isn't just a repair shop. It's a place where broken things remember they're not beyond hope. Matteo gestured to the shelves. That vase? A woman brought it in pieces, said her grandmother had given it to her before dying. I repaired it with kintsugi, the Japanese art of mending with gold. Now the breaks are part of its beauty. That guitar? A musician had given up on it. Now it plays better than new. I don't just fix objects. I fix what they represent. Victor stared at the boy, at the shop, at the shattered remains of his grandfather's watch. Every instinct told him to walk away, to accept the loss, to move on. But something made him stay. Fine. 3 months. But I want updates. Weekly. You'll get them. But Mr. Harrington. Victor Harrington. Mr. Harrington, I have one condition. While I fix your watch, you have to fix something else. Something broken in your life that you've been ignoring. Victor bristled. That's not part of our deal. It is if you want me to work on this. Matteo's voice was calm but firm. Broken things call to broken people. You're carrying more than a shattered watch. And if you don't address that, even if I fix this perfectly, you'll just break something else. So that's my price. Repair work for repair work. That's ridiculous. I'm paying you. You're paying me in money. I'm asking you to pay yourself in healing. Do we have a deal? Victor wanted to storm out. Wanted to tell this presumptuous kid where to go. But something about Matteo's eyes, knowing, compassionate, challenging, made him pause. What kind of something? Victor asked reluctantly. Whatever's most broken. You know what it is. Everyone does. Matteo began carefully gathering the watch pieces into a wooden box. Come back in a week. I'll show you my progress, and you'll tell me yours. Victor left the shop feeling unsettled. He drove home to his mansion, walked through rooms filled with expensive things, and felt the weight of emptiness. That night, he pulled out his phone and looked at Emma's voicemail from yesterday. Dad, it's me again. I know you won't answer, but I'm getting married next month. I'd really like you to be there. I know we haven't talked in 3 years. I know you're still angry about my choices, but you're my father, and I miss you. Please call me back. Victor stared at the message, his grandfather's broken watch on his mind, Matteo's words echoing. Whatever's most broken, you know what it is. He knew. God help him, he knew exactly what was broken. And it wasn't a watch. A week later, Victor returned to Matteo's shop, burdened not by objects, but by regret. He'd spent days thinking about his daughter, Emma, and the 3 years of silence caused by pride and a bitter fight over her life choices. As Matteo worked on Victor's grandfather's watch, he explained that every gear mattered, that nothing could be repaired in isolation. Like a family, he said gently. The comparison forced Victor to admit what he hadn't faced. His relationship with Emma was broken. Matteo urged him to start small. One honest connection. One admission of fault. Repair begins by admitting damage. That night, Victor sent a simple message. I was wrong. Can we talk? Emma answered. They met. It was awkward, painful, but real. Victor apologized without excuses. Emma shared her life as a teacher, her happiness, and the hurt his words had caused. They didn't fix everything, but they began. Over the following weeks, they rebuilt trust slowly. Victor met Marcus, Emma's fiancé, and learned to value the life his daughter had chosen. Each conversation became another repaired piece. Back at the shop, the watch slowly came together just like Victor's family. Matteo explained that healing wasn't a single act, but a daily choice, choosing patience over pride, connection over control. When Emma invited Victor to be part of her new family, he finally understood what true success meant. Not money or power, but relationships worth repairing. Everything broken, he realized, deserved a chance at repair. In the 6th week of the repair, disaster strikes. Matteo makes a serious mistake while working on the most delicate part of the watch, undoing weeks of progress. He blames himself for being overconfident, but instead of reacting with anger, Victor sees the situation as a reflection of his own life. Victor realizes that repair, both of the watch and of his relationship with his daughter, Emma, is not linear. There are advances and setbacks. He remembers a careless comment he made about Emma's salary and how it pushed her away again. Even so, he chooses to keep trying. As they work together in the shop, Victor understands that he has spent his life believing everything could be bought or controlled. But delicate things, people, relationships, trust, require patience, respect, and understanding. During a dinner with Marcus's family, Emma's fiancé, Victor is exposed to a simpler way of living, centered on connection and meaning rather than money. A conversation with Marcus's father teaches him that something is worth repairing when it still has purpose and meaning. Moved by this realization, Victor calls Emma to apologize sincerely and admits that healing will take time. They both agree to continue step by step. Back at the repair shop, Matteo shares a final lesson. Repair is not a destination, but a daily practice. It is not about fixing everything at once, but about choosing every day to continue. Victor leaves changed, understanding that the most important repair is not the watch, but himself and the relationships that truly matter. 3 months after the watch's repair, Victor stood in a boardroom very different from his usual corporate settings. Around the table sat Emma, Marcus, who'd found a new teaching position, Matteo, Robert, and several others whose lives had intersected through the network of repair. "Thank you all for coming," Victor began. "I've called this meeting to discuss a new venture. Not a business in the traditional sense, but a mission. I want to create something lasting, something that embodies what I've learned." He pulled out his grandfather's watch, placing it in the center of the table. This watch was broken. Experts said it was beyond repair. But Matteo saw possibility where others saw destruction. And in fixing this watch, he helped me understand that everything, and everyone, deserves a chance at restoration. Victor outlined his vision. A foundation dedicated to teaching repair, not just of objects, but of relationships, communities, systems. It would fund apprenticeships for young people like Matteo, support small repair businesses, and create programs that brought generations together through the art of restoration. "We live in a disposable culture," Victor continued. "Something breaks, we throw it away and buy new. But what if we taught people to repair instead? To see value in what's broken? To invest time and care in restoration rather than replacement? What would that do to our relationships, our communities, our world?" Emma spoke first. "Dad, this is beautiful. But why repair specifically? Why not education or healthcare or any number of worthy causes?" "Because repair is a metaphor for everything we need to fix in our society. We've lost the patience to mend relationships, so we discard them. We've lost the wisdom to restore communities, so we abandon them. We've lost the belief that broken things can be made whole, so we don't try. Teaching repair teaches hope, and hope changes everything." The foundation launched quietly, starting with a small grant program for repair shops in struggling neighborhoods. Matteo's shop was the first recipient, allowing him to take on apprentices, young people from difficult backgrounds who needed both skills and purpose. Victor watched as the foundation grew organically. A furniture repair collective in Detroit, a vintage electronics restoration program in San Francisco, a traditional crafts preservation initiative in Appalachia. Each project focused on repair, but really taught connection, patience, and the value of what already exists. But the most transformative project was closer to home. Emma proposed a program bringing together elderly craftspeople with at-risk youth, teaching them traditional repair skills while building intergenerational relationships. "You're describing what Robert did for me," Victor said. teaching me about typewriters while teaching me about life. Exactly. Skills are important. But the relationships formed while learning those skills, that's what really heals. The first pilot program paired 15 teens with 15 elders. Robert taught typewriter repair. A woman named Dorothy taught furniture restoration. A man named James taught watch repair. He'd been one of the experts who'd told Victor his watch was beyond hope, but had since learned from Mateo's example. Victor volunteered, teaching business skills through the lens of repair. Every business, he told the teens, is really about fixing something broken in the world, finding what's not working and making it better. The question is, are you fixing for profit or for purpose? Both are valid, but only one will truly fulfill you. One student, a 16-year-old named Carlos, approached Victor after class. "Mr. Harrington, can I ask you something? Everyone knows you're rich. Why do you care about repair? You can just buy new stuff." "I used to think that way," Victor admitted. "Then I broke something that mattered, my grandfather's watch. And I learned that some things can't be replaced. They can only be repaired. That lesson changed my life. Taught me that value isn't about newness or perfection. It's about meaning and connection. But you're still rich. You still have money and power." "I do. But I'm learning that power isn't about control. It's about service. Using what I have to help repair what's broken in the world. Money is just a tool. What matters is what you build with it." Carlos was quiet for a moment. "My dad left when I was young, like Mateo's dad. I've been angry about it my whole life, thinking it's broken and can't be fixed. But maybe it could be repaired? If I tried. Maybe. Repair requires both people willing to do the work. But the trying itself, the willingness to see possibility in brokenness, that's healing too. Whether your dad responds or not, you'll have changed by trying. That's the real repair. What happens inside us when we choose hope over resignation." The conversation stayed with Victor. He'd spent months learning to repair his relationship with Emma, but he hadn't considered his own childhood wounds, his parents' death, his grandfather's eventual passing, the loneliness of building an empire alone. All broken things he'd never acknowledged, let alone tried to mend. That evening, he visited his grandfather's grave for the first time in 5 years. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. Victor sat on the grass, pulling out the repaired watch. "Grandpa, I broke your watch, but I also fixed it. Or rather, I let someone help me fix it. That's been the hardest lesson. Learning to accept help, to admit I can't do everything alone." Victor's voice caught. "I'm sorry I didn't visit more before you died. I was so busy building the empire you inspired me to build that I forgot the man who inspired it. But I'm trying to do better. With Emma. With the foundation. With life." He sat there for an hour, watching the sunset, feeling connected to his grandfather in a way he hadn't since childhood. The watch ticked steadily in his hand, each second a reminder that time continued, that life offered chances for repair if you were brave enough to take them. Victor's phone rang. "Emma. Dad. Where are you?" "The cemetery. Visiting Grandpa. Can I come? I haven't been there in years either." 20 minutes later, Emma sat beside him on the grass. They talked about their memories of their grandfather, about the lessons he'd taught, about how they'd both lost their way in different directions. "I think he'd be proud of us now," Emma said. "Not for what we've achieved, but for the fact that we found our way back to each other. The foundation, this repair work, it's really about him, about honoring what he valued. Not money or status, but craft and care and the belief that everything worth having is worth maintaining. Then let's make it something he'd truly be proud of. Something that lasts beyond us. A real legacy." They left the cemetery as darkness fell, planning and dreaming together. Father and daughter repaired and repairing, building something that would outlast them both. Back home, Victor opened a drawer he hadn't touched in years. Inside were letters from his grandfather, written during Victor's college years. He'd never read them all. Too busy, too focused on the future to dwell on the past. Now he read every one, hearing his grandfather's voice in the careful handwriting. The letters were full of wisdom Victor had been too young to appreciate. Building is important, but maintaining is sacred. Every fortune begins and ends with relationships. What you repair says more about you than what you achieve. In the final letter, written a week before his grandfather's death, one line stood out. Victor, I'm leaving you the watch not because it's valuable, but because it represents time, past, present, and future. Use your time wisely. Fix what's broken, including yourself. And remember that the best legacy isn't what you build, but who you become. Victor held the repaired watch, understanding finally what his grandfather had meant. The watch had broken to teach him what it represented. Time to repair, time to grow, time to become the man he was meant to be. And he was finally, gratefully learning to use that time wisely. 1 year after the watch's repair, the foundation had grown beyond Victor's wildest expectations. 20 repair programs across 12 cities. 200 young people learning traditional crafts. 50 intergenerational partnerships. And most importantly, countless relationships repaired along the way. But success brought challenges. Donors wanted metrics, proof of impact, quantifiable results. Victor found himself in familiar territory, defending value that couldn't be easily measured. How do you quantify a repaired relationship? He asked the board. How do you measure the moment someone believes in themselves again? These aren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They're transformations that happen slowly, invisibly, but profoundly. Matteo, now 20 and the foundation's youth director, spoke up. We can measure skills learned, jobs obtained, recidivism rates reduced. But Mr. Harrington is right, the real impact is harder to quantify. It's in the way Carlos reconnected with his father, in how Dorothy found purpose teaching after years of isolation, in how this community has formed around the practice of repair. The board remained skeptical. They wanted expansion, scale, efficiency, all the things Victor once valued. But he'd learned different priorities. I'm not interested in becoming the biggest foundation, Victor said firmly. I'm interested in being the most impactful. Sometimes that means staying small, focused, personal. Every repair program is a relationship. You can't scale relationships without losing what makes them valuable. The tension was familiar: growth versus depth, quantity versus quality, metrics versus meaning. Victor had spent his business career on one side of that debate. Now he found himself on the other. After the meeting, Emma approached him. You okay? That was intense. I'm fine. Just tired of defending values that should be self-evident. But that's the work, isn't it? Constantly choosing meaning over metrics, even when it's uncomfortable. The board means well. They're just speaking the only language they know. Maybe we need to teach them a new language. Emma's insight led to a new initiative. Board members had to spend a day working in a repair program before voting on expansion. No exceptions. If they wanted to make decisions about the foundation's future, they had to understand its heart. The results were transformative. The CFO spent a day with Robert learning typewriter repair and left with tears in his eyes. I forgot what it feels like to make something with my hands, to create value that isn't abstract. The marketing director worked with Dorothy and discovered that the stories were more powerful than any campaign she could design. These are real people, real transformations. We don't need to sell this. We just need to share it. One board member, however, remained resistant. Gerald, a venture capitalist who'd donated significantly, insisted on aggressive expansion. You're being naive, Victor. With proper scaling, we could reach thousands more people. But at what cost? Victor countered. If we lose the personal connection, the patient mentorship, the relationships that are the foundation's actual foundation, what have we gained? Efficiency, impact, scale. I've spent my life chasing those things. They brought me success but not fulfillment. This foundation isn't about my ego or anyone's portfolio. It's about repair, slow, patient, personal repair. That can't be scaled without being destroyed. Gerald resigned from the board. Victor didn't try to stop him. Sometimes repair meant letting go of what couldn't be reconciled. But the incident made Victor realize something important. The foundation needed protected values, principles that couldn't be compromised regardless of pressure or resources. He gathered the core team, Emma, Matteo, Robert, Marcus, and Dorothy, to articulate those principles. Every repair takes the time it takes, Matteo said. We can't rush the work. Every person deserves patience, Dorothy added. Skills can be taught quickly. Wisdom requires time. Relationships are the foundation, not metrics, Emma insisted. If we lose that, we lose everything. They drafted a charter, the Repair Manifesto. It stated clearly that the foundation would prioritize depth over breadth, relationships over reach, transformation over transaction. Any decision that violated these principles would be rejected, regardless of funding or pressure. Ironically, the manifesto attracted more donors. People were tired of foundations that prioritized scale over soul. They wanted to support something genuine, something that valued what truly mattered. One donor, a woman named Patricia who'd made her fortune in tech, approached Victor at a fundraiser. I've been looking for something like this for years. Every foundation I've supported became about growth, not purpose. This feels different. It is different, because it's not really about repair. It's about remembering what matters. The repair is just the vehicle. Victor showed her his grandfather's watch. This watch was broken beyond repair, according to experts. But a kid believed differently. And in fixing this, he taught me to see everything differently. Business, relationships, life itself. Tell me more, Patricia said, genuinely interested. Victor spent an hour explaining the foundation's philosophy, Matteo's story, his own transformation. Patricia listened intently, and by the end, she'd committed not just money but time, volunteering to teach coding through the lens of repair. Coding is all about fixing bugs, debugging systems, restoring functionality, she explained. I can teach kids technical skills while teaching them the patience and precision that repair requires. It's perfect. The foundation continued to evolve organically, adding new programs as opportunities emerged, but always staying true to its core principles. A textile repair program taught sewing while addressing fast fashion. A book restoration program preserved history while connecting generations. Even a conflict mediation program used repair language to help families and communities heal divisions. But Victor's favorite program remained the simplest. The weekly repair cafe where anyone could bring broken items and learn to fix them with volunteer mentors. No charge, no requirements, just people helping people restore what had been damaged. He volunteered there every Saturday, working alongside Matteo, teaching whatever skills he could offer. Often it wasn't the fixing that mattered, but the conversations during the fixing. Stories shared, connections made, isolation broken down. One Saturday, an elderly woman brought in a music box her late husband had made. It no longer played. She sat with Victor and Matteo as they carefully examined the mechanism. He made this for our 50th anniversary, she said softly. He died 2 months later. I thought when it stopped playing, I'd lost the last piece of him. They worked carefully, discovering the issue was simple. A displaced cylinder that just needed realignment. When the music played again, the woman wept. It's not about the music box, she told them. It's about being reminded that broken things can sing again, that endings aren't always final, that care and patience can restore what seemed lost. Victor understood. That's what Matteo had done for him with the watch. That's what they were doing for countless others through the foundation. Not just fixing objects, but restoring hope. Not just repairing items, but healing hearts. That evening, as Victor and Matteo closed up the repair cafe, the young man said, "You know, a year ago you were a customer. Now you're a partner. That's repair too. You've rebuilt yourself from someone who consumes to someone who creates. I had a good teacher. We taught each other. That's how repair works best, mutual transformation. You helped me secure the building. I helped you find purpose. Everyone's both teacher and student. What's next for you, Matteo? You're 20 now. The world is open. This, exactly this. Why would I want anything else? I wake up every day knowing I'll help restore something broken. I'll connect people. I'll prove that hope is rational, not naive. What could be better? Victor thought about his younger self, obsessed with acquisition and achievement, always chasing the next thing. He'd never understood that enough could actually be enough. That purpose could be more fulfilling than progress. "You're right," Victor said. "What could be better?" They locked up and walked together through the neighborhood that had become home to both of them. Victor's new apartment, much smaller than his former mansion, was nearby. Mateo's shop and living space above it were 3 blocks away. They were neighbors now, part of a community. "Same time next week?" Mateo asked. "Same time every week," Victor confirmed. "For as long as there are broken things to repair and people willing to believe repair is possible." They parted ways, and Victor walked home through streets that felt safe and familiar. He passed neighbors who greeted him by name, saw lights in windows that represented lives being lived, heard laughter and music and the sounds of community. His phone buzzed. "Emma, just wanted to say I love you, Dad, and I'm proud of the man you've become." Victor stopped walking, overcome with emotion. A year ago, such a message would have been impossible. Now it was natural, earned through countless small repairs that had rebuilt their relationship. He texted back, "I love you too. See you at dinner Sunday. Wouldn't miss it. Marcus is making his famous lasagna." Victor smiled, pocketing his phone and continuing home. Sunday dinners with Emma and Marcus had become sacred, a weekly ritual of connection, a chance to maintain and strengthen the repairs they'd made. Inside his apartment, Victor placed his grandfather's watch on its stand. The visible gold repairs caught the light, beautiful in their honesty. The watch ran perfectly, keeping time that mattered, time spent with family, with community, with purpose. Victor had fixed the watch, but really the watch had fixed him. Or rather, the process of repair, the patience, the care, the belief in possibility, had transformed him from someone who broke things through carelessness into someone who restored things through love. And that transformation, he was learning, was the real repair. Everything else was just practice. 2 years after the watch's repair, Victor faced his greatest test. The foundation had thrived, growing slowly and intentionally as planned. But Gerald, the former board member who'd wanted aggressive expansion, had started a competing organization, the Rapid Restoration Initiative. His model was everything Victor had rejected: franchised repair locations, efficiency metrics, scalable training programs. He was offering the same services but prioritizing growth over depth. And he was succeeding, at least by traditional measures: 20 locations in 6 months, hundreds of students, significant media coverage. Donors started asking questions. "Why is Gerald reaching more people? Why isn't your foundation growing faster? Are you being effective?" Emma was furious. "He's stolen our entire concept and corrupted it, turned it into a business instead of a mission. We should sue him." "For what? Repairing things? We don't own that concept." Victor was calmer than his daughter expected. "Gerald is doing what he thinks is right. Fast growth, maximum reach. I understand that impulse. I used to live by it. But he's undermining everything we've built." "No. He's testing whether what we've built is actually stronger than the alternative. If our approach, slow, relational, depth-focused, is truly better, it will prove itself over time. If not, maybe Gerald's right." "You can't mean that." "I mean that I'm choosing faith over fear. Faith that relationships matter more than reach. That depth matters more than speed. That transformation can't be rushed or franchised." Victor pulled out his watch. Mateo could have rushed this repair, could have done a quick fix that looked good but wasn't structural. Instead, he took 3 months and did it right. 2 years later, it still runs perfectly. That's the model I believe in. But belief was tested further when Rapid Restoration opened a location 3 blocks from Mateo's shop. They offered faster service, newer equipment, a slick marketing campaign. Within weeks, Mateo's customer traffic dropped significantly. Victor found Mateo in his shop, looking worried but not defeated. "They're taking all my business," Mateo said. "People want fast. They want cheap. They want convenient. I can't compete with that." "Then don't compete. Do what you do. Be who you are. The people who need you will find you." "But Victor, I might lose the shop. Lose everything we've built here." I'll help financially if needed. But Matteo, you taught me that not everything can be measured in business terms. Some things have value that transcends profit. Your shop is sacred space. Gerald's locations are transactional. There's a difference. Tell that to my landlord when I can't make rent. Victor understood Matteo's fear. He'd felt it himself 2 years ago when choosing between control and connection. What do you need? I don't know. Maybe to trust that what we do here matters, even if fewer people come. Maybe to remember why I started this. Not to compete or succeed, but to help restore what's broken. Matteo looked around his shop. This place is about relationships. Gerald's places are about efficiency. Both have value. But I can't be him. I have to be me. Then be you. Brilliantly, unapologetically you. That's enough. That's more than enough. Over the following weeks, something unexpected happened. Yes, rapid restoration attracted more customers initially. But they also generated complaints, rushed work, impersonal service, repairs that failed. People started returning to Matteo's shop, valuing the care and attention they'd taken for granted. One customer, a man named Vincent, explained it perfectly. Gerald's place fixed my watch in 2 hours. It broke again in 2 weeks. You took 3 days. It's been running for 3 months. I'll wait for quality over speed any day. The Foundation's programs showed similar patterns. Gerald's initiative trained more students faster, but Matteo's slower, mentorship-based approach produced craftspeople who actually stayed in the field. Efficiency metrics looked impressive, but transformation metrics told a different story. The media began noticing. A journalist did a feature comparing the two approaches. Rapid restoration versus the repair foundation, speed or soul. The article was fair, acknowledging the value of both models, but highlighting the deeper impact of the foundation's relationship-based approach. It featured Carlos, who'd reconnected with his father and now ran his own repair business. Dorothy, who'd found purpose teaching after years of isolation. Patricia, the tech entrepreneur who'd discovered fulfillment in coding education. But the most powerful testimonial came from unexpected source, one of Gerald's former students. They taught me skills, he said, but the foundation taught me why those skills matter. There's a difference between knowing how to fix something and caring enough to fix it right. Gerald called Victor after the article published. You won. Happy now. This isn't a competition, Gerald. Never was. You're helping people your way. I'm helping people my way. Both have value. But your way is being held up as superior. The soul versus the business. No. The article said both matter. We need efficiency and we need depth. We need reach and we need relationships. The world is big enough for both approaches. Gerald was quiet for a moment. I thought you were naive, idealistic, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm the one who doesn't understand what we're actually fixing. What do you mean? I thought we were fixing objects, but you're fixing people. That's why relationships matter to you, because the repair is secondary to the connection. Exactly. The objects are vehicles. The real repair happens in relationships, between mentor and student, between generations, between broken people who help each other become whole. I don't know how to do that. I only know how to scale and optimize. Then maybe we could work together. Your efficiency with my depth. Your reach with my relationships. What if we combined approaches instead of competing? The conversation led to an unprecedented collaboration. Rapid restoration would provide the infrastructure and scale. The repair foundation would provide the training philosophy and mentorship model. Together, they'd create something neither could achieve alone. It wasn't easy. Gerald and Victor had fundamentally different approaches, different values, different instincts, but they learned to appreciate what each brought. Efficiency balanced by purpose, growth guided by wisdom, scale infused with soul. Emma was skeptical at first. Dad, can you trust him? He tried to destroy what we built. He tried to do it differently. That's not the same as destruction. And Emma, I've learned that repair often requires collaboration with people we don't initially understand. Gerald and I are different. That's our strength, not our weakness. The collaboration worked because they established clear principles. Rapid initial service for simple repairs, deeper mentorship for complex work. Training that emphasized both efficiency and relationship. Growth that maintained quality control. Most importantly, they agreed that every location would have an elder craftsperson, someone like Robert or Dorothy, who'd provide not just skills but wisdom. Speed would be valued, but never at the expense of care. 1 year into the collaboration, Matteo said to Victor, "You know what impresses me most? You didn't have to work with Gerald. You were winning, but you chose collaboration over competition. That's real repair, fixing the division itself." "I learned from the best," Victor said, gesturing to Matteo. "You taught me that everything deserves a chance at restoration. Even relationships with rivals. Even divisions that seem unbridgeable." The combined organization reached thousands more people while maintaining the depth and relationships that made the work meaningful. It wasn't perfect. Tensions remained. Philosophical differences persisted. But it worked because everyone committed to the same core truth. That repair mattered more than ego, and people mattered more than programs. Victor's grandfather's watch continued to run perfectly. A daily reminder that sometimes the most broken things can be made whole. Not by one person's vision, but by many people's commitment to repair. 5 years after that day in Matteo's shop, Victor stood at the opening ceremony of the 100th Repair Center. The collaboration between the Repair Foundation and Rapid Restoration had exceeded everyone's expectations. Not just in numbers, but in transformative impact. Emma stood beside him, now the foundation's executive director, pregnant with her first child. Marcus taught in the youth training program, his passion for education finding perfect expression in mentorship. Matteo, at 23, oversaw craftsperson training across all locations, still living above his original shop. 5 years, Emma said, watching young apprentices demonstrate their skills. "Can you believe how far we've come?" "I can barely believe who I was 5 years ago," Victor admitted. "A man who thought a broken watch was the worst thing that could happen. Who didn't realize I was far more broken than any object." The ceremony featured testimonials from transformed lives. Carlos spoke about reconnecting with his father and starting his own business. A woman named Lisa described how furniture restoration gave her purpose after divorce. A teenager named Jordan explained how an elderly mentor became the grandfather he'd never had. Gerald stepped to the microphone. "5 years ago, I thought Victor Harrington was naive. I started Rapid Restoration to prove repair could be scalable and profitable. I was right about scalability, wrong about everything else." He gestured to Victor. "This man taught me that efficiency without soul is just speed. That reaching more people means nothing if you're not really connecting, transforming, matching. Our collaboration works because we both learned that repair isn't about objects. It's about people. Always." After the ceremony, Victor found Matteo in a quiet corner. "You started all this," Victor said, "with a broken watch and the audacity to believe repair was possible." "I didn't start anything. I just saw what was already there, your capacity for transformation. The watch was just the catalyst." Matteo smiled. "You did the hard work. I just held the space. You held hope when I had none. You believed I could be better than I was. Because you could. Because everyone can. That's what repair teaches. Brokenness isn't permanent. Change is always possible. It's never too late." A young woman approached. "Mr. Harrington, I'm Zara. I've studied your model, combining efficiency and depth. I think it could apply to other areas. Education, healthcare, criminal justice. Systems broken not from lack of resources but from losing sight of the human element." "What are you proposing?" "A consulting practice, teaching organizations how to apply repair principles. Not just fixing what's broken, but transforming how they think about brokenness itself." The idea was revolutionary, taking lessons from watch repair and applying them to societal systems. Over the next year, they developed repair thinking programs. Schools learned to repair relationships with struggling students instead of expelling them. Hospitals learned to repair trust with communities. Corporations learned to repair cultures instead of just chasing profits. One CEO told Victor, "You taught us that our workers aren't parts to be replaced when they break down. They're people who deserve investment and care." Our productivity increased. Turns out people work better when treated as valuable rather than disposable. That evening, Victor returned to his modest Brooklyn apartment. Frank and Helen had him over for their weekly dinner. Family not by blood, but by choice and proximity and daily showing up for each other. Later, in his small study, Victor wrote a letter for his grandchild who'd be born in 3 months. "Dear little one, by the time you read this, you'll know your grandfather as an old man who talks too much about repair. But I want to tell you how I became this person. I spent most of my life building walls around my heart, my wealth, my ego. I thought strength meant not needing anyone. I was wrong. When I broke your great-great-grandfather's watch, I thought I'd lost something precious. What I'd really lost was the illusion of control. A boy named Matteo taught me that everything broken can be repaired through patience, care, and willingness to believe wholeness is possible. Your grandmother Emma was my first and most important repair. 3 years broken, shattered by my pride. But we did the work, piece by piece, conversation by conversation, rebuilding what I'd destroyed. That taught me nothing is beyond hope. Not relationships, not communities, not even the broken parts of ourselves we think are permanent. You will break things, make mistakes, shatter relationships. That's being human. What matters is what you do next. Do you walk away declaring things beyond repair? Or do you sit with the brokenness and patiently work toward restoration? Do you seek quick fixes or deep healing? Efficiency or connection? Do you throw away what's broken or invest in repair? These questions matter more than any fortune I could leave you. The watch I'll give you someday was shattered. You'll see the gold repairs. That repair is its value. The watch is beautiful not despite being broken, but because someone cared enough to make it whole again. That's how I want you to see the world. Full of broken things that deserve care. Full of people who need patience. Full of relationships requiring daily maintenance and repair. Your grandfather wasn't always this person. I was hard-closed certain. A boy in a repair shop taught me differently. Your grandmother gave me a chance to practice. Thousands since have shown me repair is possible, always, if we're brave enough. So be brave. Break things. Make mistakes. Fall apart. Then do the hard work of repair. That's where real strength lives. Not in perfection, but in the courage to piece yourself back together, with visible gold repairs telling the story of your transformation. I love you already, and I promise to teach you everything Matteo taught me about the sacred work of repair. Your grandfather, Victor. He sealed the letter, adding it to a collection of wisdom for future generations. The watch sat beside him, ticking steadily, marking time that mattered. Emma texted, "Baby's kicking. Strong and healthy. Can't wait for you to meet them. Already love them. See you tomorrow for lunch. Wouldn't miss it." Victor walked to his window, looking at the neighborhood that had become home. Lights in windows. People living lives. Connections being made and maintained and repaired. Daily, invisibly, profoundly. 5 years ago, he'd been a man who thought a broken watch was tragedy. Now he understood it had been a gift. The breaking that allowed him to be remade, the destruction that preceded restoration, the shattering that taught him wholeness. He touched the watch, feeling its warmth, its steady rhythm. Not just a timepiece, but a testament. Not just repaired, but transformed. Like him, the millionaire had laughed when a boy said, "I can fix this." Thought it impossible. Thought the kid was naive. The boy had done the impossible. Not just fixed a watch, but fixed a man. Shown him that repair wasn't about objects but about opening your heart wide enough to let someone help you become whole. And that transformation, from closed to open, from broken to repaired, from isolated to connected, that was the real fortune. The inheritance that mattered. The legacy that would outlast any empire. Victor turned off the light. Tomorrow he'd volunteer at the repair cafe, have lunch with Emma and Marcus. Small things. Daily things. The ongoing practice of repair that never ended because it wasn't about reaching a destination. It was about choosing, every day, to stay open, stay connected, Stay committed to restoration. The watch ticked in the darkness. Steady, faithful, repaired, just like the man who wore it.